Willkommen, welcome to the fascinating world of the German case system. Today I'm going to talk to you about the nominative and the accusative case. And the nominative is used for the subject and the accusative case is used for the direct object. Whenever you encounter a German noun or a German substantive, you will ask yourself, is it a masculine, a der, is it a feminine, a die, or is it a neuter noun, a das? And as you know, usually you can take a look at the ending, and if you remember all the rules, then you can make a very educated guess. But unfortunately, sometimes there are exceptions. But it's still better to know the rules than not to know them. So let's take a look at this cute little bunny here, a rabbit. Now, rabbit in German is der Hase. And immediately you notice the rule is if the noun ends in an E, it should be feminine, and it's most of the time that is the case, but in the rabbit's case, der Hase, it is an exception. So, but now you know it's a masculine noun, and of course it's a singular noun, and now you can create the sentence, the rabbit plays Gitarre. And in German it's, der Hase spielt Gitarre. And by the way, Gitarre also ends in an E, and it does follow the rule, meaning Gitarre is feminine while der Hase is masculine. Let's take a look at those two columns. The column on the left shows you the definite article in the nominative case for the subject, and the column on the right shows you the definite articles in the accusative case, which you use for the direct object. And when you compare those two columns, the nominative here and the accusative, what do you notice? Yes, you're right. You immediately noticed that the masculine changes. But lucky us, the feminine doesn't change between the nominative and accusative, neither does the neuter or the plural form. But when it comes to the masculine, we have to be careful. Der becomes den. So let's put it into practice and tell me what you buy. Was kaufen Sie? What do you buy? Ich kaufe, I buy, die, das, or den. Of course you will use die if you have a feminine noun, das, a neuter, and den if you have a masculine noun, because whatever you buy will be in the accusative, will be the direct object. So let's take a look at 4 sentences. Ich kaufe den Hund, I buy the dog. Ich kaufe das Handy, I buy the cell phone. Ich kaufe die Tasche, I buy the bag. Und ich kaufe den Koffer, I buy the piece of luggage. Again, the feminine, the neuter did not change. There is no visual difference between the nominative and accusative. But when it comes to der Hund und der Koffer, you have to change it into the masculine case. So let's talk a little bit about what is actually a subject and what is a direct object. That's crucial to know, because the subject uses always the nominative, and the subject is what or who performs the action, and the action is always expressed in the verb. So let me show you 4 examples. Ich lese, I read. Well, I perform the action of reading, therefore I'm the subject. Die Studentin arbeitet. Who is working? The student. For this reason, she's the subject. Der Student isst. The student eats. Who is eating? The student. Therefore, again, he is the subject. And finally, a neuter but also an inanimate object. Das Auto fährt. The car drives. Who's driving, or what is driving rather? Das Auto. And therefore das Auto is here the subject. So the subject always responds to the questions was, what, und wer. You will ask was if it's an inanimate object, or you ask for something that is not a human or person, and you will use the question wer when you ask for a person. And if you look at wer, it might remind you of a definite article. Exactly, der. So the question word for person like wer is modeled after the masculine definite article. So let me give you a couple of concrete examples. Was ist interessant? What is interesting? Der Deutschkurs ist interessant. The German course is interesting. So the German course is the subject of this case, and of course it is interesting. The next example, wer spielt Tennis? Who's playing tennis? Wir spielen Tennis. We are playing tennis. So we are the subject of the sentence, wir spielen Tennis. Now the accusative is used for the direct object. And the direct object is whatever the subject is acting upon. Let me show it to you. Ich lese ein Buch. I'm reading a book. So what am I reading? A book. So this is my direct object and it will use the accusative case. Der Student isst ein Eis. Der Student isst einen Kuchen. Der Student isst eine Suppe. The student, the male student, eats ice cream, a cake, a soup. So who's the subject? Of course, the student. The student. Why? Because he's performing the action of eating, and whatever he's eating is our direct object, and therefore we have to use the accusative case. And finally, the female student meets the man. Die Studentin trifft den Mann. Again, who's our subject? The student. Why? Because she's performing the action of meeting. Whom is she meeting? The man, den Mann. Our direct object, our accusative case. So the object responds to the questions was, again, if it's abstract or an inanimate object, und wen, whom, when it's a person. As an example, wen liebt Peter? Whom does Peter love? Peter liebt seine Freundin. Peter loves his girlfriend. Was liebt Peter? What does Peter love? Liebt Pizza. He loves pizza. So let's come to another example. And here we'll break down the entire sentence. Repariert die Lampe. Now we want to know the subject, who actually repairs the lamp. Wer repariert die Lampe? And here we have found our subject and thus our nominative case. He repairs the lamp. Now we would like to know what he repairs. Was repariert er? Repariert die Lampe. And here we have found our direct object, also our accusative. Let's take a quick look at qui, because that is a little different, because qui in French has only one expression, while in German or in English you have two. So wer is qui and wen is also qui, or wer, who, wen, whom, qui. Let me show you what I mean. You can ask the question, qui est l'homme, qui est la femme, qui est l'enfant? Wer ist der Mann? Wer ist die Frau? Wer ist das Kind? And then you can also ask, qui aimes-tu? J'aime l'homme, j'aime la femme, j'aime l'enfant. Wen liebst du? Ich liebe den Mann, die Frau, das Kind. As you notice, in German it's truly important to know whether you're asking for the subject. For example, wer ist der Mann? Qui est l'homme? Der Mann ist mein Vater. L'homme est mon père. Yeah? Or whether we ask about the direct object, the accusative. Wen liebst du? Ich liebe den Mann. I love l'homme. J'aime l'homme. And then, of course, you have our masculine, and in German, the accusative case is necessary. Finally, we already come to the last slides, the slides with your homework, or rather all the exercises that should help you to kind of get more familiar with all the rules and everything I introduced you to. So please create 3 sentences with kaufen, yeah, ich kaufe, and whatever you buy should be in the accusative, and please use a feminine, a neuter, and a masculine noun. Do the verb conjugation of treffen, because what you might have noticed that die Studentin trifft den Mann, there was a vowel change, and as you already know, the vowel change usually happens with the do and the SES form, while the rest is not affected. So I think you can already write down on a piece of paper the verb conjugation of treffen, yet please double check it online to make sure it's all correct. Then create 4 sentences of your choice, whatever you like to write about, as long as it's A, German, and B, it has a subject, a verb, and a direct object. Take a look at the videos and, of course, try to understand them truly. So sehen und verstehen, to see, to watch, and to comprehend, and do the little exercises. And that's all for today. Looking forward to seeing you in class. Tschüss.